Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Satterwhite Live. I'm Blake Linton. We've got Josh Thomas, and we have a special guest today, Mark Henline. He is our sales representative out of our Gunnison, Utah office. Mark, glad to have you here.
It's good to be here.
How are you liking this Texas winter?
I love it.
It's a little different than what you're used to, huh?
I was going to say. It's nice, actually.
We actually got a little snow. I guess you brought that down with you.
Yeah, I brought that from Utah.
Yeah, that was nice to get
You're welcome.
3 or 4 inches of snow this week. So
That's Gene Word, our warehouse manager.
warehouse manager is doing something that's pretty important.
Why don't you tell them what we're talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about location and how that affects your log home. Satterwhite, we're unique. We have 3 locations. West Coast, we've got you covered with Gunnison, Utah.
Yeah, and that's Arizona. Why don't you tell them some of the places that you regularly get calls from?
We sell a lot into Colorado, Montana,
So I had to figure that
Arizona,
out.
New Mexico, Utah, Nevada.
So y'all pretty much
The
take
whole
care
West.
of the whole
Yeah.
out west.
Yeah.
And there's considerations there, and I mean that's basically what this
Yeah, and-
video is about today.
Right,
Considerations
so-
across the country.
Considerations about where you're building. You can call any of our offices and we can get you to the right people. Josh and I are, of course, based out of Longview, Texas. We deal with the central United States and 9 southern states. And then we have our LJ Georgia office. So
Yeah, so they hit all of the East Coast, Florida, Georgia, obviously, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, up into Virginia we've done.
absolutely, absolutely. So,
And further.
you know, when you start talking about building locations, Josh had a good point earlier. Your building location dictates, it all hinges on your foundation, I guess you should say.
No,
Well, you said something earlier. That was,
your foundation can dictate, your location can dictate your foundation.
right. Let's start with Texas. You know, Texas primarily slab foundations or pier and beam foundations. You know, when I first started here, we didn't do many basements in Texas, but those are becoming a lot more popular nowadays. So, you know, just in the state of Texas, you have several different soil conditions.
Oh, yeah.
Here in East Texas, we have sandy loam. Around Dallas, there's a belt, I guess you would say, of expansive clay soil.
Black clay. We get a ton of calls, and I think that extends even into Oklahoma to an extent.
Right.
But they get a ton of calls. You know, well, how do we do a foundation in this area? Or they're used to a certain soil type, and they're moving somewhere, but maybe that's not the same, and so you have to kind of walk them through that.
Yeah, I mean, you can vary 10 or 12 miles around the DFW area and be either on sandy loam or expansive clay. You go down to South Texas, you're building on solid rock. So just in the state of Texas, there's those 3 primary soil conditions. So, and what that's going to
There's
do.
some exotic soil types out there. What is caliche? I've always heard caliche foundations in the Texas Hill Country.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very rocky, almost like a sandstone / concrete formation. You know, that's how it sets up. But yeah, I mean, so just in Texas, just in the stuff that we work with on a regular basis, just in a slab, you can have just a regular conventional slab with footers and rebar mesh. You can have the waffle style footers. See a lot of houses in the black clay area, a region that have post tension slabs.
post-tension, that's right.
And those are that's just different types of slabs right here by us.
Right.
So just imagine the different geographical areas and foundations that are required for those areas.
Right.
There are so many geological formations in the United States. If somebody gets out, 1/3 of the state of Nebraska is sandhills. They've got specially adapted foundations that work in those circumstances. Where Mark is from, in Utah, you could be building on the bed of an ancient freshwater lake, Lake Bonneville. That's completely different than building up on the side of the hill on rock.
Right. And, you know, Mark, I guess y'all primarily see basements up there or crawl spaces?
Usually basements, crawl spaces. We get Arizona and stuff, of course, slabs, but yeah, we're usually based. People love basements up there because you get a lot more, you can add a lot more square footage to your cabin.
Yeah, a lot more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Well, and not just Utah, but Colorado, even the Midwest. If your freeze line, like we were talking about before the video, if your freeze line is 3, 4, 5, 6 feet deep, that means that the ground is literally going to freeze that deep on a regular basis. Your foundation has to extend through that so you don't have heave. So you
And
don't have.
no matter where you build,
Yeah.
your foundation has to go past the freeze line.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in Texas, it's a non-issue because it's a couple of inches. Everything does that. But,
Right.
but depending on where you're at. So, yeah, for a lot of people that call in, a full basement is all that they know because that's
Right.
what they have to have there.
Absolutely, it's standard, and that's probably what you run into, Mark.
I've got 2 homes being built at 9,500 feet
Wow,
right
wow.
now. So of course they both
That's
have
over a
basements.
mile, Blake.
Yeah.
It's almost 2 miles, Josh.
Yeah, it's way up there.
Josh likes to flex his math skills every once in a while.
I did that math in my head real quick.
That's right. So we've talked about out west and here in Texas. Now let's out in Georgia. There is no flat land in North Georgia. I know that. So they're
Right.
all built on basements for the most part, or a pier and beam style foundation. Now they reach up into the Carolinas, West Virginia. I feel like basements are as prevalent out there as they are out west.
At the very least, you're not seeing many slabs.
No.
You know what I mean? Even if it's not a basement, it's some sort of raised foundation.
Crawl space,
That's
pier
right.
and beam of some sort.
Well, and that's just how the location can affect the foundation.
Right.
I mean, think about what the location can do to other aspects of the project, like utilities, insurance. Why don't you touch on that for a minute?
Okay, thank you, Josh. Your location where it's if you want to drill down to like on your property, if you have 1,000-acre ranch and you want to put the house at the back of the ranch, that's money that you need to account for getting your utilities back there, building the road back there,
Drilling a well.
drilling a well.
Yeah, 'cause you're probably not-
availability of your utilities is always a big
Right,
thing. So,
right.
that's always something that you need to take into consideration when you're doing your budgeting, ahead of time. So, Josh, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I mean, along those same lines, we were talking about insurance and not necessarily just the cost of insurance, but how close are you to a fire department, volunteer fire department, or fire hydrants? Those things can have impacts on your insurance costs.
Absolutely.
So, real rural places or out in the mountains, where you guys are, you might not have a volunteer fire department within 2 miles, 5 miles, whatever the insurance radiuses are. So those are things to think about with your location as well.
Absolutely.
Segueing in from that consideration of insurance, you even get into out west, urban wildfire interfaces, urban wildland interfaces where a fire might be subject to wildfire. Or in other areas of the country, we have considerations that affect how your home is designed and engineered to do if you're in a hurricane area or a coastal area. We
Yep.
always think of that as being the Gulf Coast, but anybody who looks at the history knows that includes the entire eastern seaboard too, the types of natural disasters, whether you're in a seismic zone, all those types of considerations.
Absolutely. And we can make considerations for any of those things. You said hurricanes. We can do hurricane strapping, any of that kind of stuff. We can definitely help you protect against that, depending on where you're building.
Smoky Mountains, so LJ, but definitely where Mark's at in Utah, talking about weather, think about snow and snow loads and how that affects the roof system of the house.
Yeah, and Mark can expand on this a little bit, but the way we build here in Texas is a far cry from how they build out in Utah.
It really is. Every plan I do has to go through engineering. So once the drafter sends her blueprints to the engineer, he'll go through and redline it and send it back and say, you need to increase the pitch of the roof, or you need to. It has to have a metal roof for the snow load,
Isn't that county specific? I mean, doesn't the
Yeah,
engineer?
everywhere is different, and the engineering is different from everywhere. That's why they have to get the stamps for their particular place.
Specific areas.
Wind load, seismic load.
Building codes
Snow
can
load.
vary within the county,
Really?
depending on altitude.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and the soil, like you were saying earlier, and California is a whole different game. When you can build in California, but you've got a lot more hoops to jump through.
Right.
So
Well-
many restrictions. So
I mean, that just goes to show you, all the different things to think about, you know, as far as location, how it affects all the different aspects of the build. Those things need to be thought of up front if you don't have land. Now, if you have land, you're going to have to make it work. If you don't have land, you know, those are things that can really, because people call in here all the time, or they'll send us an email, what does an Austin cost? Well, where are you building?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, those can have huge impacts if you're building, you know, in North Louisiana versus, you know, the Rocky Mountains are 9,500 feet.
Oh, yeah. I don't, in Texas, it's a little different, I think, but out there, you even buy into developments and they'll have the CCRs where you can't have a certain color roof. You know, you have to make sure you have so much square footage. You have to have a carport. There's,
Yeah, like homeowner associations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do run into some HOA restrictions around here, but we're flexible. We are a completely custom log home company, so we can make the necessary changes to
Yeah,
get
so
you what you need.
Yeah, we have the resources across the country at all of our locations, East Coast to West Coast and everywhere in between, that can help you with those considerations, design, engineering, all, you know, even if we can't answer it specifically, we can get you in touch with who can help you.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know who to call, if you don't know, you know, well, say I'm going to build in Mississippi, do I call Texas or Georgia? Or I'm going to build in New Mexico, do I call Texas or Utah? Or, you know, call any of us and we're going to help you, direct you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Danny, anything we're missing on this? I'm sure we're missing
Guys,
something.
we have built tens of thousands of homes all across the United States. We're always getting questions. Can you build and name your spot? The answer is yes.
Absolutely
Give
it
us a
is.
call.
If we can get a truck to it, we can build on it. So,
Hey, sometimes not even a truck. We've built on in-holdings on federal wilderness areas where the materials had to be helicoptered to the site.
wow. That doesn't save you any money.
Well, you know, it's somebody's dream, and we made it happen.
That's absolutely right.
Mark, we appreciate you being on with us today.
Oh,
Thank you, Mark. Glad to have you here in Texas for a little bit.
I love Texas. This is my first trip. Well, I came here when I was 10 years old to Six Flags, you know, in Dallas.
Uh-huh.
Since then, this is my first trip back.
Well, you need to come back in the summertime. We'll see
great.
if that changes.
No. I'm about to say, me and you are going to take a trip to visit him in August.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Texas in August is a far cry from Texas in January, that's for sure.
Okay.
But we are glad to have you here, and we're glad to have you guys watching this week. Josh, you want to wrap us on up?
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to us or like the video. If you've got any suggestions or anything that you'd like to have covered, please leave us a comment or call us or shoot us an email. I know we got a good comment this week for some suggestions on some videos upcoming on one of our YouTube videos, so that was appreciated for sure. We love fresh ideas, so keep those coming. Until then, I guess we'll see you next Thursday on Satterwhite Live.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.